Welcome to the new My Football Club podcast. Well, there's nothing like a little recreation of what it must have sounded like when the Fleet's all-time goal scorer played at Stonebridge Road. That's Steve Portway, and he's the subject of this week's Fleet Heroes of the Past. I'll be talking to Charles a little later on about him. Hello and welcome again. I'm your host, Augustine Sasso. This is the new My Football Club podcast, show number 11. You can email me at augustine.sasso@myfootballclub.co.uk. Well, the good times just keep rolling along. Last week, we had a 3-0 win against Boreham Woods. Next stop for the Fleet in its cup run, AFC Wimbledon. I talked to Lord Charles on the eve of the Boreham Woods game. We talk a little bit about the previous, the league win against Boreham Woods, 1-0. We talk a little bit about strategy. And then, if you can believe it, Lord Charles gasps as we talk about Steve Portway. Yes, I think he was at a loss for words, just momentarily. After the interview, you'll get my usual roundup of the Fleet teams. Here then is my interview with Mr. Charles Webster.
Hello.
Hi, Charles. It's Augustine. How
How
are you?
you doing?
I'm okay. Is this a good time to talk?
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
All right. So tomorrow, FA Cup, Boreham Wood, Stonebridge Road. And I was reading, obviously winning the game is important, but the fixtures that might come afterwards if we win sound impressive against, what did I hear, possibly teams like Sheffield Wednesday. And anyway, we can talk about that because another important game.
Well, what we've done is we've really got ourselves back in the position we were over the last 9 seasons when we were in the Blue Square Premier, when the club was exempt until this round of the competition. And this is where we came in, and most often it's where we went out again as well. So we didn't exactly have what you call a cup run, because more often than not, it was more of it was like, you could say we were more like a tea bag. You know, we dipped in the cup and we went straight out again. And so at least we've had a little cup run with the games against Cray and Needham Market and now Boreham Wood. We're beginning to build up some momentum, a little bit of excitement along the way. Not much money in it for us so far, but the treasures could await us if we can do the business against Boreham Wood tomorrow. And after what I saw last week at Boreham Wood, I think we should have enough in our locker to do the job tomorrow. But, it's all the cliches that us commentators love. Anything happens in the FA Cup, and they could come along to Stonebridge Road and land us on our backsides and shock everybody. So, be prepared for a tough battle.
Yeah, I agree. Now, do you think Liam will make any strategic changes for tomorrow's game? Just adapting to possible Boreham Wood change?
Well, I spoke to Liam after the game last week, and I said, does this victory give you any advantage? And he said, well, really, there's an advantage to both sides in that we now know about each other. Now, he may have seen some things from Boreham Wood that might make him deploy people in a certain way. I think, one change could possibly be Scott Ginty, maybe getting a run off the bench tomorrow, perhaps. I know he wanted to play in a reserve game this week, but that was cancelled. So whether he's shown enough of a fitness level to perform, I don't know. But I know he's absolutely aching to get back into the action. So maybe he could come into contention, because we need 7 players on the bench tomorrow. So even a half-fit Scott, it might be worth having him in there. But Boreham Wood, for my money, they had one key player last week, and that was their skipper, Mario Notto. He was in midfield, and he was trying to be, him against the rest, trying to raise his side, who are bottom of the blue square south, and he really didn't get a lot of help from his teammates. And I think as long as the Fleet can keep Mario Notto quiet, they should have strength in other positions to deal with Boreham Wood, who really, they were, not for a team at the bottom of the table. I expected them to be scratching and fighting and trying to win every ball, but they were playing at half pace sometimes last week, and I was very surprised at their lack of enterprise. But they've still got this 6'7" player, Onibuji, that they can bring on. They brought him on as a substitute last week. It didn't look too threatening to me, and when he came on, Paul Lorraine looked across at his defensive partner, Clint Easton, and they kind of like went, yeah, okay, that's the best you've got. Onibuji, he could muscle his way in front of goal and put the ball in the back of the net, but he didn't manage to make too many inroads into the Fleet defence last week, and maybe he won't be able to tomorrow. I think they could be missing Leon McKenzie, who's one of their more regular strikers, because, of course, he got sent off last week for 2 bookable offences. The second one, when he sized down Callum Willett late in the game as Callum was bearing down on goal, and McKenzie, the centre-forward, found himself the last defender for Boreham Wood. Chased back Callum, and he upended him, earning himself a yellow card and a trip to the showers, which I'm told the dressing rooms at Boreham Wood were tiny, and there was just one open shower for all, whatever it was, 28 players to share. It was a pretty cramped space, I'm told, in those dressing rooms. So at least at Stonebridge Road, the players are being more familiar territory.
But now the red card, that was a league game. Does it apply for a cup game also?
That's what I'm uncertain about, because red cards and suspensions, they can apply, 7 days after, or, I get confused. But it wouldn't surprise me if McKenzie is missing tomorrow. If he does play, then obviously the suspension doesn't start until Monday.
All right, well, yeah, we'll find out tomorrow then. I'm looking at the table, and the South, Blue Square South table, and it's really exciting. Now we've got Braintree Town and Chelmsford on top. The same teams at the bottom, but there's we've got new leaders, and I think a lot of. I'm trying to look. There was 1 or 2 games last week which kind of surprised me. Maybe it was Dover losing to Chelmsford.
Well, that shouldn't be a surprise, because as good as Dover are, Chelmsford are more than equal to them on their day. And Chelmsford, they pay big money. They've been knocking at the door at the top of this division for a number of seasons. They are going to be in the top 4, no doubt, at the end of the season. Braintree, they've just signed a new player this week. They've signed Scott Shorten from Bishop Stortford, who was at Ebbsfleet last season. Shorten was let go by Liam because he didn't think he'd cut it at Premier Division level. He went to Bishop Stortford. He had a trial at Southampton, and now he's gone to Braintree. So they're reinforcing their lineup. But Chelmsford, they are going to be a team that everybody's going to need to take points off if they're not going to get in the top 4. But I would put them down as definitely being in the top 4. They're a side that, they've got strength, and they've had it for a long, long time. And when the Fleet play them, that's going to be, one heck of a game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The other transfer of note this week is that Giuseppe Soul, who was formerly with the Fleet, he played against them for Dorchester on loan earlier in the season whilst with Newport County. Well, he's left Newport County, and he's now gone on loan to Havant and Waterlooville with a view to signing permanently. So he could line up again against the Fleet when they come up against Havant.
Wow, okay. He's sort of making the rounds, but
he certainly is.
As you know, I like the guy, and I hope he sticks. Find some success.
As long as he doesn't play well against the Fleet.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Well, now, last week we started to talk about some, Fleet players of the past, and you mentioned the Fleet's top goal scorer. I forgot his name, but I'd like to.
I've got it tattooed on the inside of my left eyelid. It's Steve Portway. I mean, he is a name that, you know, if you mention it around Stonebridge Road, everybody kind of purrs, you know, as with recollections of how the guy played. You know, he came to us, you know, as a very much an unsung hero, somebody that had been plying his trade around clubs in Essex. He came to Ebbsfleet, or Gravesend and Northfleet as we were, without any fanfare. And to start with, it was a kind of faltering start. And he didn't impress in any way, but he struck up a relationship with another player of the time called Mickey Cotter up front. And those two, once they got going, they formed one of these rare things that you see in football, a kind of a telepathic relationship where one would know exactly where the other was going to be. And, you know, they used to work the ball downfield to these guys, and Cotter would do a lot of the legwork, and Portway would often turn up to finish off the move by putting the ball in the back of the net. But it was a real cavalier spirit. The Fleet played in those days with, you know, gay abandon, and Portway was the man who got most of the goals. But I think he'd be the first one to credit Mickey Cotter with doing all the spade work to make it happen. But he was a fan's favourite, and there was a chant that used to go up, which was "Ole, ole, 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 Portway, Portway," and that was something that you'd hear around the Southern League grounds at the time. And there was one game at Bury Town where the Fleet were 2-1 down with about half an hour to go, and Portway took the game by the scruff of the neck and scored 6 goals in the last 20 minutes. And to me, that will always be one of the greatest solo performances I've ever seen on a football pitch. And probably my footballing hero is Jimmy Greaves, the great Spurs and England goal scorer from the 60s. And Steve Portway is the closest thing I've seen at this level to Jimmy Greaves. And it's a tragedy that his time at the Fleet was